I've learned a lot over the 4 decades of health and fitness and being in the trenches with the greatest in the world. And one of those things I've learned a lot more about and how to build better muscle is nutrition and how it has changed over the decades. And that's why I have the Titan meal plan for you guys out there that are confused about nutrition. I'm gonna set you straight. Get a hold of me today. The link will be in the comments down below for you guys. Everybody, get over to the Titan meal plan, and I'll see you in the Titan crew where I will fine tune any difficulties that you're having. All right, today on the Michael O'Hearn Show here on Generation Iron is Tony Blauer. And the great thing about Tony is, besides being a martial artist for, well over 40 years and extremely well trained, he understands and is going to demonstrate and talk to us and tell us how we can actually take that martial arts and actually apply it to our mental focus, and understanding that without that mental strength and the way to attack the fear in your mind, being the baddest guy in town doesn't really help. So let's bring this savage on and get into depth about this. And this one's one of those things for you guys at home. I know you guys work out. I know you guys do all that stuff. This is all about mind strength, and something that I truly believe really separate that 1% from the rest of the world. Strong minds. Let's go. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no. Thanks for squeezing me in. Your schedule's insane. You just got back from the movie.
One thing is, like, if I understand this correctly, you got the 2 aspects: what goes on in the body, what goes on in the mind. Does the mind trigger the body?
I love this question. They both interact and dance like yin and yang, right? So you can, let's say you wake up and your stomach starts to hurt you. You start to think, did I get food poisoning? Do I have a stomach flu? You start to, but the physiological sensation, the pain was there first. Then you start to imagine what it's going to be. Right. So the mind, you know, in terms of tactics and movement, I always say the mind navigates the body, but your body can influence what your mind is thinking about, right? So you've injured yourself as an athlete, you know, whether it's martial arts or bodybuilding or powerlifting, whatever, and you got an injury. And let's say you're coming back, right? You're going, okay, am I ready to lift this amount of weight? There's no way you don't have like a you know, what's called the equivalent of PTSD for, last time I did this, I blew up my hamstring, or I threw out my back. And I've got, as you know, 40 plus years as a martial artist. I say martial artist, but I was doing like crazy scenario stuff. So I'm paying the price now as a aging athlete, the pains that I deal with, the nerve pain, some of the stuff in my body. Interestingly, because of you, I'm going to see Jimmy today for
Jimmy Bluff. Little shout out for the master.
Yeah, so my first time, you know, we've talked, and I'm going to do a pretty intensive treatment with him just to try and undo stuff. And I loved his slogan, you know, surgery without the knife. I was like, oh, please, because anyways, but there's no way, like even now, if I go teach, I teach 4 times a week online still, and of course live stuff, you know, when it comes up. But when I'm doing stuff, it's almost like I've got to be detached and watching what I do, because if I move wrong, it can agitate an old injury, which really changes like the proverbial flow state that we all want to hit.
When I work with pro athletes to the most pinnacle level, the greatest there is, and they get that injury, their bodies come back. But for so many, the mind doesn't. The mind never fully trusts the body again.
And it's scary, because you can, you know, doctors will say, oh, if you break your arm or your leg, it heals stronger. And I'm like, okay, do I believe you? And you remember when Anderson Silva broke his leg. And shin. I mean, I was like, but that, you know, then I started thinking, if that happened to me, would I ever throw another shin kick? You know, like, you know, so here's an interesting thing.
It's a tough battle, though.
Yeah, and it's only self-awareness, Mike. It's very astute of you. It's only self-awareness that can help us overcome that. In other words, something happens to one of us, and we've got our own type of PTSD related to that event, And then you go, hey, we're gonna go lift, we're gonna go spar, we're gonna go do this thing. And I go, last time I did this, I got hurt. And then instead of me saying, okay, but I'm gonna go light, or let me just watch, and let me ease back into this, or I go, I'm busy, right? And you've seen
you completely shut the door.
Right, and you know the term rationalize, you ever seen it spelled with a hyphen, rational hyphen lies, where you tell yourself something that is ostensibly true, but it's a rational lie. We always go into denial first. So if I come back to the big thing is, how do we create more self-awareness? Because self-awareness is that kind of internal spotlight that says, what am I doing right now? Like, who am I, right? And that has you discover, like, am I going to be motivated by Goggins, or am I going to be motivated by Krishnamurti? Am I going to be, is it Bruce Lee, or is it Chuck Norris? And we all need mentors. We all need spiritual guides, and it could be a book, it could be a quote, it could be a person, an idea. But I think where you're going with this is how do we self-actualize? How do we become the best version of ourselves and gracefully move through every chapter in our life? Someone can derive that inspiration from you, but if they try to model you, do they maybe not live the life they were meant to live? Unless they went, you know, like when I first discovered Bruce Lee, 13, 14, 15, when I was 15 years old, I've told this story on 100 podcasts. I'm on the floor, working on the splits, looking at Bruce Lee magazines, 15 years old, 1975, and my mom walks by and she says, hey, next year, you know, you're going to be graduating high school. We grew up in Canada. You know, have you thought about what you're going to specialize in? What are you going to do? Are you going to go into the family business? I like to joke that in the 70s, there were very few jobs. You could be a doctor, a lawyer, like from a good family, a doctor, a lawyer, a policeman, a fireman. It was very limited, a vet. You know, like, you know, are you going to go into the family business?
Not only was it small, but it was like, that's what you do.
Very specific.
Yeah, you don't do this whole martial. What is that?
And I looked at her at 15 and I said, Mom, school's not going to be that important for me, because I've decided I'm going to be a famous martial artist like Bruce Lee, and I'm going to develop my own self-defense system. And I said that like verbatim, which is such a grandiose, weird thing for like a 15-year-old kid to say. But there was something when I started martial arts and training and teaching and studying.
I love the fact that that 14, 15-year-old kid knew what he wanted.
Yeah.
And I love that you were that. And it just set you up, and you were so confident with your. Can I ask what your parents did?
Yeah, my mom was a stay-at-home mom for many, many years. Then she became an interior designer and decorator, like doing homes. And my father was in a family business. We had a ladies' clothing import and manufacture.
So I could so see him going, hey, I got you. I created something that you can come into.
There was that assumption, because his dad started the business and he was now running the business, and you know, and I did work for him for a couple of years. And it was funny when in 1980 I went to work for him, and I was living. My parents had split up when I was 13, and I was living with him. And it was the first day of work. I'd gone to school. I said, you know, school's not for me. This isn't right. That was a little lost. Well, you'll come to work. So it was like, okay, here we go.
Great father lesson.
Right? But I go to work and I'm thinking, like, the name of the company was Blauer International. It was the, you know, and he was the president. And I put on slacks and a button-down shirt, and we get there and he's got like 10 employees, and it's 8 in the morning, breakfast, or everyone's eating together. And it's a pretty big place. Like, you know, we get deliveries from all over the world, clothing from Europe and what have you. And so there's a big shipping department, and all the employees are there, and then the front offices. And I'm like, and everyone knew me, because like my dad's
kids here.
Yeah.
Boss's kid.
But a lot of them, it's watched me grown up. Like, he had employees that were for their 10, 15 years. So when he'd come to the office, you know, let's say on the weekend to do some extra work, I'd be there, they'd be there. So they all knew me when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, and here I am, 20 years old, and we're sitting there, and we're sitting at the table like this, and I always remember this, And he goes, well, you ready to get started your first day? I go, yeah, Dad. And, you know, and I'm thinking, I wonder which office I'm getting. Is it like the corner office? Is the window office? And he goes like this. He goes, you see that over there? And I'm looking, and it's like it's racks in the bathroom and the walls. And I go, what am I pointing at? Over there on the wall? The poster there? No, beside that. And I see a broom. And he goes, yeah, grab that and start sweeping the shipping area.
I freaking love that.
And I was like, oh shit. And I was like not dressed for that. I mean, no, I was dressed for it, but it was like my expectation.
You weren't dressed for that. You were thinking, I love that though. That's a great father moment.
It was awkward. Here's an interesting thing. I hated it, obviously. Like I'm in front of like people that were, you know, friends, family, now colleagues. I would have done it differently if this were reversed, and you know, my son's sitting in the other room here, listening. Had that been the situation, I'd have said, listen, I'm not giving you like a little silver spoon. If you want to be in the business, you got to learn how I learned from the bottom. I want you to know every job, and if you stay with it, maybe you run the company one day. So when we get there, I'm going to have you sweep, and I'm doing this.
Company.
Yes, sweetheart. Yes, sweetheart. I'd have pre-briefed me in the car. That's just my personality, because I was embarrassed. I turned red. It was a good lesson for me, but it actually became a parenting lesson for me, as opposed to a staffing employee lesson for me. I tell this story about how fear creates doubt, doubt creates hesitation, hesitation creates procrastination. Unchecked, you're now in the fear loop and you're consuming time, the only resource we can't regenerate. So fear management equals time management. If you understand how to manage fear, you're managing time. You're actually creating more time in your life. And I always tell the story, Lucy was the girl you wanted to go to the prom with in high school. And I knew her through some friends, and I was in a couple of classes with her. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask Lucy to the prom. And I walk up to her, and you know, and in the halls, I go, hi, Lucy. Hi, Lucy, right? I'm like scared. That's like, and she goes, hi, Tony, what's up? And I go, oh, are you gonna be in history this afternoon? She goes, yeah. Okay, I'll see you there. Boom, walk by. What are you doing? Come on, man, come on. So a day goes by. I finally manifest the courage. I go, hey, would you go to the prom with me? She goes, oh my God, I would love to. And I'm like, but yesterday, Johnny asked me and I said yes to him. And I was like, right? So fear management, time management. Had I asked yesterday, I'd be going to the... If you face just one opponent and you doubt yourself, you're outnumbered. And when I say competition, meaning you're thinking about like the outcome, there's a goal. I want to win. I want to win at life. And when you carry fear, like what I was afraid of from 1-year-old to 10-year-old changed, you know, when I became 10, it was like, oh my God, what's high school going to be like? I got jumped when I was 12 years old by 2 kids from high school. And that set the stage for A, me starting martial arts, but also B, I was afraid of getting beaten up in high school because it set a welcome to high school, kid, and they beat me up. When I became 20, when I turned 20 and I was working for my dad, I said, I hate this, what am I doing? I had forgotten about 15-year-old Tony who wanted to just teach self-defense. And the universe, I'm working out in the back, this is, I just got wicked goosebumps. I'm working out in the back, so we get these big boxes in. This is 1980, I'm 20 years old. 1976, Rocky was released, right? And so Stallone, again, another iconic figure, right, for us growing up. Yeah. Stallone, Bruce Lee, Robert Conrad from the Wild Wild West, and you know, Schwarzenegger, and of course, he's a bodybuilder. You should look him up.
I'll write that name down.
Arnold Schwartz. So so here I'm in the back. We would get these big boxes in from overseas, and they were huge, and they were my sides of beef to what Rocky would do. right? Remember Rocky, he'd be hitting the beef. And like, so when we'd empty these boxes, I'd just beat the shit. I mean, they were so big, they're corrugated like cardboard, that if you really nailed it properly, like your knuckle would go through and you get that auditory feedback. You could do jump back kicks on it. I'm 20 years old and I'm hating working at my father's office. But I'm working because I got a job and I'm, you know, okay, we unpack this thing and I'm beating the shit with the boxes. And I turn around after a big jump back kick and there's this guy, Joey, my dad's good friend but biggest client, is standing there. And he goes, and he's known me my whole life again, right? He's watched me grow up, they're good friends. And he goes, he says, you really took to this, the martial arts stuff, right? I said, I love it. He goes, you know Mitchie, it's one of his sons. He says, he's having a bully issue at school. I want you to train him. I want my son to not be afraid of a bully. Will you do that, Tony? I said, well, Joey, of course. Like I know the whole film, you know. He goes, how much will you charge? Now it's 1980, I'm making $4.25 an hour, sweeping my father's factory. $4.25, that's the minimum wage at the time. And he goes, how much you charge me? Well, I look at him and go, well, I'm not charging you, you're a friend of the family. He's like, I know Mitch, he's 15, I'm 20, I'm 5 years older than him, but like I know this kid, I'm gonna help him. He goes, no, I want you to take this seriously. This is my son. I want you to show him some of these. Remember the old books, jiu-jitsu tricks? They would call it tricks. He said, I want you to show him some of these tricks. And I'm like, okay. I go, but I can't charge you. He says, no, I need to pay you because I want you to be on time and I want the lesson prepared.
Nice.
And I say, and again, another lesson. Right?
Yeah.
And I go, and I'm 20 and I go, okay. He goes, how's 20 bucks? So I'm thinking, I get $4.25 an hour. That must be 5 classes. Okay, right. Fine. So I say, okay, cool. He says, okay, so I'll pay you 20 bucks for every class. And I'm like, did you just say I'm getting 20 bucks an hour? And I did the first Tiger Woods pump for the one. Even Tiger Woods wasn't even.
Yeah, it wasn't born then, probably.
but in my mind, it was like, oh my God. And I started teaching Mitchell that weekend. And Joey comes down after, he goes, gives me a $20 bill. 2 weeks later, Mitchell's brother Stevie goes, and they're obviously, you know, well-to-do family. He goes, how come Mitchell gets private lessons?
I want in.
2 lessons. We're working out one day, Derek across the street, and we're in like a little, captive community. And Derek goes, what are you guys doing? Oh, we get private fighting lessons. In a month, Mike, I had 30 16 and 17-year-old kids, all tough athletes, skiers and skaters who grew up in Canada. And I was making 3 times more money in a week. And I was still working for my dad. I did that for 2.5 years, where I did 7 days a week, every single night after work. I finished work at 5. I would then drive across town, and I did that for freaking years. And then in 1983 or so, I walked to my dad's office and I said, I'm out, I'm done. I can't do this, I want to do that. And went that way, taught private for a couple of years, then opened up a training center in 85 and haven't looked back. And it was funny, you talked about 40 years, and when there are people who go, oh, you're a fighter, or you're a knuckle dragger, or you love violence or whatever. They don't realize I abhor violence. I abhor it. I get sick when I see it, which is why I've created a holistic approach to self-defense. Emotional, psychological, avoidance, resilience, all the mindset stuff. When we think about self-defense, we immediately think about like a specter in the dark, like a fight, something happening. We don't think about self-defense spiritually or holistically. Like, how many times a day or a week do we beat the shit out of ourselves with our self-talk? So self-defense is
that not a daily thing?
Right? It's like every hour, right? And so if you think about it, it's like, well, when's the last time you got in a physical fight? You might go, well, I have to go back to that time I was drunk here. And it was some what I call douchebag fights. It wasn't real violence. So in the 40 years of me studying violence and fear, and this is part of why my program has become so holistic, is initially, like in the 80s, of course, it was boxing and striking and wrestling, and it was MMA before MMA was a thing. A lot of people are doing that. You know, if you're inspired by Bruce Lee was a mixed martial artist, and but it was all physical. And then when I really started committing to teaching people and helping people, I naturally wanted to be a coach. I love seeing people's eyes light up or get empowered or realize they could do something, and that was my dopamine. It's like helping people. And but I realized that when we started doing like these, it was like Fight Club before Fight Club. We would do these scenarios once a month, seminars, and we'd recreate violent encounters for people. And I'd go, hey, Mike, what would be the scariest thing that happened to you? And you go, well, 3 guys late at night, if I got jumped here. And lo and behold, your scenario was Mike, and there'd be 3 role players, and you'd be like, and I would nonchalantly ask people, like in an interview, you know, hey, what would go? Well, a guy with a knife who, and then it'd be like, your scenario is a guy with a knife. And what it would do is almost like that, like what my dad did to me. Like you thought you were going to learn how to box and strike, but I put you in a scenario where the scenario started with the nightmare that you said this would be highest on my list, right? And it was like that shock value, because I wanted people to realize that the mind navigates the body, your emotional, psychological system impacts how you move. So in one of the articles I wrote in the early 90s, I said how you think affects how you move, how you feel affects how you move, right? But both of them, they're all interconnected. You can't just say, I'm going to do this physical skill, develop this muscle memory, which incidentally doesn't exist in the literal sense. Muscles don't have the capacity to store memory. We use the term, you probably use the term, everyone uses the term, I stopped using it. It's neural patterns. You've trained your brain to do a certain thing, right? You don't go for a run because your quads started running and you're like, oh shit, what's going on? Oh, my
it'd be cool though.
Yeah,
it'd be cool if it did.
When I grew up, I had some very impactful male role models. Robert Conrad from Wild Wild West. Bruce Lee and the Green Hornet, and then Bruce Lee, and then realizing when Bruce Lee got famous, when he passed away, we then realized, oh my God, he was in the Green Hornet. Like when you were young, you didn't make that connection yet. So it was Bruce Lee, it was Robert Conrad. Then when I was 16 years old, Stallone and Rocky and the whole Rocky story. My favorite Bruce Lee quote was always, to hell with circumstances, I'll create my own circumstances.
Correct.
That carried me through everything, dude.
Wow.
Because everyone told me, like, when I started doing my stuff, I'm going to be a martial artist, I'm going to teach. Really, dude, that's not a real job. What are you like, right? And there was a lot of shit that went to me getting here. But anyhow, so Bruce Lee, Stallone, Robert Conrad, I ended up meeting all of them, but not meeting them like at a book signing. Like I stunt double Robert Conrad. He was in town I was doing stunt work and little bit parts, and next thing I know, like we're the same height. We're that, hey, you want to stunt? Come in on audition to stunt double Robert Conrad.
How cool is that?
I'm like, are you kidding me?
If you are confused about training, do not worry. That's what the Titan training plan is for. For you guys to subscribe to this plan, you also get the additional coaching from me in the Titan private group. Get in there today, and I cannot wait to start working with you and making your dreams come true. Let's get back to the show.
It's great if you can discover a purpose in your life, but if you think it's like running ultra marathons or getting as big as Mike or oh, I gotta be a martial artist like Tony. Like if you're emulating that because you think that will bring you happiness, or that's not the point. It's only coincidence that, like when I discovered Bruce Lee, like that was a coincidence, because it could have been figure skating, it could have been gymnastics, it could have been ladies, clothing, whatever it is, you find your thing. Or, and this is, I mean, I don't have deep thoughts on this, where you finally realize, this is what I can do really well. And then you lean into that, because that will also create elements of gratitude and acceptance and stuff like that.
You grab onto something that you love and stuff, but is it only beneficial if you're making money and you can survive off it?
That's the danger. When I started doing what I was doing, it was never about the money. You know, I had the security and the you know, check. It wasn't very much when I was working with my dad. And I kept doing that for like 2 years or whatever. And this is the danger, again, not to, you know, overuse the, you know, the self-awareness concept, but you start getting into business and you do, you know, like I designed some equipment that I sold to the US government for $17 million. Like, you can't not start thinking about the money.
When you make the millions, it's cool and stuff, but there's such a beautifulness to be in that that phase. And I wish these kids don't run away from that and know that this is probably some of the greatest emotion you'll have.
Right.
Living in the creative possibility.
It's what do they call it in Silicon Valley? The incubator period. Like where you're, and that was my 80s. My 80s was my incubator period. And, you know, struggling and trying to figure it out, but having a vision and doing stuff. It's tricky. It's a tricky conversation because, like, there's a lot of people who go, what's, like Simon Sinek's, what's my why? You know, and you need to maybe do something that you go, I don't really care that much about this. I love, like, I want to be a writer or a poet or a painter or, you know, and there's nothing wrong also with doing good work during the day and then going to the gym and working out. There's nothing wrong with having this job that pays the rent and you provide for your family, but running your martial arts school because you love self-defense and maybe you can only do it twice a week out of you know, renting a room out of a ballet studio, but you're doing the thing that fulfills you.
Jump into your teachings, because we were down at the Black Site. Is that what's the full name?
Operation Black Site.
Operation Black Site. That sounds so badass.
It's cool.
So that's Dan and Bedros's place.
But what this is, they had this epiphany, which is really cool. Because I always say, like, you know, hey, talk to me, Mike, about what are your most important assets? And what do you answer as your most important assets?
My consistency.
The asset thing, and this is, you know, Bedros and Dan's epiphany. Of course, they're wizard business entrepreneurs, right? They put together kind of like this unique mastermind where you're learning combatives from Mike Chandler and me and Steve Eckert. Shooting skills with Tim Kennedy and Ray Kashgar. They have, and I don't know the names, some of the names are I don't know them because they're not as high profile in social media, but they're high profile in the community that they come from. Escape and evasion, how to get out of flex ties, and like if you're kidnapped, you know how to break free and escape. They have these specialists doing stuff, and it's this mastermind that's so cool because you do this training, and then like you'll have like a Sean Whalen or a Tim Grover's going to be there at the next event, like big brain people come in and talk about business. And I always tell them, like my involvement in it was like I do knife and gun in our spear system, how to weaponize the startle flinch. But when I think about this, I go, like, most entrepreneurs think about their assets as outside themselves. And I say, your most important asset is your ass, and you don't know how to protect it. And that's why you should come to this. And it's not that you're going to...
and this is where they're going to miss it. Yeah. Go, say it.
It's not that in like 2 days, you got these amazing skills. It's like, oh, I trained with Mike Chandler for 2 days, I'm going to enter a fight. The point is creating self-awareness about where you might want to go or what you don't know. That, right? Like you go there and you go, oh, this is what it feels like to go force on force with somebody. Or I never thought about owning a gun, and I just spent, 2 days with Tim Kennedy and Ray doing house clearing stuff, and now I'm gonna go get trained properly. Or I own a gun and I never did any training. It's just exposing capability gaps in our systems. So it's this idea, and I always tell people this, I go, what should I do? And I go, look, if you can afford to do it, you can't afford not to do it. Why? Like, just to be around that energy is contagious, but also like learn some new skills, and the skills that you're learning. I always tell people this: everyone needs to know how to defend themselves.
Agreed.
But no one needs to know how to defend themselves until the moment you need to know how to defend yourself. But then you don't know how to defend yourself, right? So why not like learn it? It's a life-saving skill. It's easy to learn. Here's another thing.
I think I agree with you. I just think it's a freaking badass thing to do. And honestly, at the end of the day, I know that you're going to learn some techniques. You're going to learn to fire. You're around such a top level mindset.
It's all contagious. There's a high.
That you just walk away from that weekend, regardless if you don't shoot better or fight better. To me, you're gonna be a better person and understand stuff, and it's just fun for me. I think for Mona and I've been there a few times, and just it's fun to get down and roll. If you've never done it, you're beyond great. It's fun to shoot a gun for the first time.
Just finding out, oh, like, because that makes it, because this is what we talked about like way early in the talk. Get outside your comfort zone. Get a little bit nervous.
This will demand. Yeah. This won't demand it. You're going to be. And then also, I love that Bedros has his kind of fatherly talk about a father-son kind of bond. And I got his books, and he sent me a couple books. Bedros did. That is just that whole old school Viking mentality and how they were raised, and I absolutely love it.
You talking about like for his other stuff, the Project and the Squire program?
Yeah, the Squire program. And it's just, when my son was born, and at 3 they were talking about what he's projected at, and I'm like, I know what kind of tussles I got into just because of my size, and I'm like, I can't fathom this kid. They're saying 6'9".
Wow.
You know this. Any place he goes, any high school party, there's going to be the guy going, I want to fight this guy.
Sure.
And so
not to mention his last name too.
First name, Titan. But he's going to be an instant attack.
Right. Target.
So what can I do as a father? And I love that about what they're doing is how to set him up so he can be that peaceful warrior, where he not only can he protect himself, but he can protect his friends. Because like you were talking earlier about, what's your biggest fear? I don't fear being jumped. I fear that I'm being jumped when my son and my wife is with me. That scares the sheesh out of me. But if it's just me, I understand.
Right.
It's just so much relieved if they weren't there. But my fear is letting him go off to a party and not having him set up to protect himself the best he can. And again, we're not in a perfect world. It doesn't matter how badass he is, but can I teach him the best I possibly can? And so that's why for him, it was instantly, and I'm pulling strings to get him into martial arts at 2 years old, jiu-jitsu and judo from the start, so he could be something that's possible. Sure. But
I have no doubt you're a good human. He'll be fine. The most important thing is teach people to protect themselves from their own thoughts. And the strength that will emanate from him would be as if he has his shit together here. And this goes for everybody listening to this, and I said this a little bit earlier, we're worried about, how am I going to get jumped here? We jump ourselves every day.
Right.
And if you're insecure with your thoughts, that will be a magnet for a predator mind. It might not be a physical thing, but just some asshole at a party, some jerk in school, some prick in a company, because there's a lot of people, misery loves company, and they see a weakness like a dog smelling fear. And so how do you create that balance? How do you create, and even then, man, like I'm very mellow for what I do. It's counterintuitive for a lot of people when they meet me. I've been at like bars with people after an event, and people are like, yeah, we're here with, we're Tony Blauer, man, if we get in a fight tonight, this could be, and I look at them and I go, if you get into a fight tonight, you're going to be a story at my seminar, because I'm not going to help you. And they're like, what? I go, dude, What a guy thing to say. You're here because you think I'm some badass martial artist that I want to fight. I came here to have a drink with you guys. And if something happens, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to make some notes. And I'm going to tell the story about how you got your ass kicked in a bar because you have no self-awareness.
So for the viewers at home, these guys and kids everywhere, what is some Tony recommendations on the biggest abuser, yourself, abusing yourself mentally? What can you tell them how to chill on that, how to stop that? Or
this
it's not the most easy question in the world.
It's tricky because I discovered this by accident, and it was by understanding fear. So I have an acronym. I didn't wear the shirt today. I probably should have. I didn't know I could swear. You did say sheesh earlier, which is really a little offensive. You crossed the line.
Yeah, I did cross it. Shnikes.
I have a slogan called fear. And it's not me being some crass American. Fear is an acronym. Face it, understand it, control it, know it. Face it, understand it, control it, know it. So when you get a fear spike, say to yourself, okay, time to with fear, right? Okay, what am I going to do? So face it, that means I got a toothache. I'm calling the dentist right away. I got a stomach ache. I'm not going to sit here and wait, unless, obviously we know when it's just a stomach ache. Oh, look at this. Something's happening with my bank balance. I got a budgeting issue. Everyone knows in advance. You don't lose everything on a day, right? It's like you can see. Same thing with violence. Every victim of violence who lived to tell the tale said they had a bad feeling before the attack. 100% of them. So our intuition acts like a radar. Part of my training is how do we teach people to lean into intuition? Have you ever been screwed over in a relationship?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Have you ever been screwed over in a business deal?
Yeah.
Of course. After those things, this is like I'm talking about across your life.
You look back and go,
I knew that was going to happen. Everyone here has had that, and everyone here goes, I knew that was going to happen. Well, if you knew that was going to happen, why'd you let it happen? Right. So we hear our intuition, and then we go, shut up, I got this, because we're rushing, or we're excited, or we're arrogant, or we're prideful. And it's like, how do we teach people to lean into our intuition? I shouldn't get in this car and go with these people now. We're all drunk, right? I shouldn't take these drugs. I shouldn't sign this deal. Or hey, sign it now. This is a fair offer. Can I have my lawyer read it? Deal's off the table if you don't. Like that, there's like always, like, I can't say midgets these days. I don't know what the cancel culture will say. But that's a midget with hobbit.
A hobbit.
A hobbit with a flag saying, dude, this is a flag, this is a warning. So what we can do is, like, the shorter answer is cultivate self-awareness so that when there's a shift in resonance, like a guitar string out of tune, when there's a shift in resonance, something's off here, you feel it through your intuition, your instinct. We call this the 3 I's in our system: instincts, intuition, and intelligence. You get a bad feeling. I'm doing the seminar here, choose safety. One of our principles is always choose safety. Folks, don't confuse that with playing it safe. Playing it safe leads you to a boring, miserable life. Choosing safety is, I'm going skydiving today, but I'm going to get lessons from a retired military guy who jumped out of airplanes when people were shooting at him. He must know what he's doing because he's still alive, right? So you're doing something dangerous, but you're choosing safety. Make sense? And you'll like this because you're a martial artist.
But that scenario is so freaking good to the fitness world, just because of the fact that you have the guys that did it in their 20s, and then you look at them in their 40s or 35, and you're like, "Oh, what happened?" Right. Don't worry, I can coach you. It's like, whoa, I'm good. No thanks.
I will say this, and it might seem contrary because I agree with you.
Go.
In our coaches clinic, I ask people, you got 15 minutes. You can take a picture, ask 3 questions. Muhammad Ali or Angela Dundee? Who do you pick?
Oh, see, the coach. Wow, that's interesting.
Look at you thinking about it.
Yeah.
But guess what most people do, Mike? Mike go, who's the most famous man in the world? Ali, Bruce Lee, Jesus for some people, but there's like 3 up there, right? It's Ali. It's like, you know, everyone goes Ali. I go, you're in a class, in a coach's class, and they're all like fighters and martial artists and defensive tactics, because you see him as the icon of managing violence. You go, man, to meet Ali. But Ali hired Angelo Dundee to help him prepare for violence. If I've got 15 minutes, I want to talk to the guy who created the strategies that created the winners. I want to talk to Angelo Dundee, and I'm going to regret not getting the picture at Ali, but only Angelo Dundee can make me a better fighter. So,
no, I like that scenario. The flip side is, I love the fact that martial arts have been around for so long, and Bruce Lee created his own. So, who's Bruce Lee's coach? I think everybody. And then he picked and chose and manipulated it into one style for him.
He was eclectic, and he was mixed martial arts before there was the format of mixed martial arts. But he was also a philosopher. He was a deep thinker, and he was a melting pot of ideas. And he's, you know, like we could say Yip Man only did Wing Chun, but Yip Man, you know, Yip Man took it from the nun who created it, right? So there was who founded Shotokan, who founded Jeet Kune Do. There's always somebody who, this guy developed the guitar. Who is he? Who is the guy that, you know, there's
a lot of knowledge out there.
But
and there's the coach and the student, and maybe the student takes it further. Or
I tell people there's a line right out of our seminar, but I love it. It can be your next tattoo. You can't be brave if you're not afraid. The primary ingredient in courage is fear. If you're not fearful of something, it doesn't require courage to do it.
Quote, Jeffrey, bravery is not the lack of fear, but it's going through. It's knowing that there's fear and you go through it.
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela.
Could be.
I learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not who does not fear afraid, but he who conquers that fear.
The man in the arena quote. It's part of that man in the arena speech, maybe. I don't know.
Well, this one's Mandela, right?
Okay.
A lot of great ones said it. I love it.
Yeah, but that's another example. Like, this is a universal truth. You know, I've seen the enemy, and it is fear. Right? Like, there's like, that's a zillion years old, right?
All those little things our parents told us.
Right.
Those little montage or whatever it is.
Cliches.
Can't teach an old dog new tricks. Those are all real true.
Yeah. I just always tell people, like, you can't be brave if you're not afraid. And that has gotten, you know, I wish somebody told me that when I was 7. Like, I'd have been a different athlete. I'd have gone to the prom with Lucy.
By 15, 16, by 20, you definitely conquered that. In the aspect of you chose quitting a secure setup for the unsure. Yeah. And at 13, I phoned it in. I said, I'm done with this school stuff. I'm just going to kick ass. And I knew that.
And that's why we connected. The first time we saw each other, it was just...
I thought it was just because you were hot.
I thought you fall in love with me.
Yeah, I did, man. It was
maybe it was this.
And the fear thing is, I'm just scared as shit of Mona. So that's fear every day.
Right? Mona, can you leave the room now?
Yeah, please. I think I wet myself.
No, this was amazing and fun, dude.
Yeah, you're a badass cat. You're a badass cat.
You too.
Man, I appreciate you coming.
Dude, this was amazing. Thank you.
All right, there was a lot there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I love it. I love being around people like that take their craft and add on to it by experience, and really understanding that, you know, regardless of how much you train, there's a lot of people that train, and the training also just working out. But why is there just a small cream of the crop get to that very top and become that ultimate legends in their field? And again, it goes back to mind for me, unquestionable. Enjoy the day. This is Mike O'Hearn on Generation Iron. I will see you guys next Friday.